All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Test. Gotta make sure my mic is a little bit louder than this. Don't want to be too quiet. Don't want to be too loud either, but that should be good. Okay. So, welcome to another Random Code stream. I'm going to be working on a bug in Rocks. This actually came up this weekend. I think it was reported on Friday, if I remember right. Let's go take a look at that. Yeah, 2 days ago. So, yes. So, my wife and I, we celebrated our 27-year anniversary this weekend. It was actually on the 20th. That was the official day of our anniversary, but it worked out better to celebrate it this weekend. So, what we've done for most of our anniversaries, we've always gone out for dinner. That's been a tradition of ours ever since we got married, is to go for dinner on our anniversary. What we've landed on, especially since we've moved up to Minnesota, it was like, 24 years ago, is we're now getting a hotel. We stay there for the weekend, and then we go to this place, Gianni Steakhouse, for dinner by Lake Wayzata. Great place. It's not necessarily cheap, but it's a great place to eat. And with our kids being older, they can take care of themselves, and we don't have to drop our kids off at a friend's house or anything like that. And by getting a hotel, then we can get a lift, and we don't have to worry about if we have a couple glasses of wine of driving or anything like that. So it's been a relaxing weekend. But when we got to the hotel, I looked at my phone and I saw that somebody had reported a bug. And oddly enough, I kind of went, nice. Somebody's actually using it. So I was kind of like, okay, well, let's actually take a look at this, and or at least I read it. I didn't bring my laptop home or to the hotel or anything, but I at least wanted to read it to go, hey, let's take a look. If somebody just chatted, I missed it. Sorry, I should have had that up. But anyway, so yeah, I read it and I went, oh, okay, I'll take a look at this later. So here's the scenario. And I'm going to read it first, then I'll start some music, and then we'll get into it. So this one admittedly seems a little weird in terms of the setup, and it's definitely not one I anticipated. So I'm kind of a little like, but we'll go through it. So you create in .NET 8 two class library projects. You add rocks to both of them, which is interesting. And you add a dependency from project 2 to project 1. Now, if I'm reading this right, I think that means so you're referencing from project 2, project 1. Create an empty class, which, because I'm assuming it's not sealed. By the way, whoever this M girl, it says, thank you for reporting it, did a good job reporting it. But this is like one of the things I was thinking of when I was reading this is I want to go through this also in terms of, again, my mindset, how I approach this, whether it's a good way of doing it or not, but just how I'm thinking about how I'm going to tackle this. And one of the things I think could have been done here is, even though the write-up is good, it's, definitely grade at least B, there's a couple things I think if this person could have made a repo because they have a GitHub account, if they made a repo that I could have just cloned and then done it there, that would have been even slightly better. But this is more than good enough. So don't get me wrong. It's just there's always ways to improve, and this would be one of them. Is if you could, maybe I put that in my bug template, is to say if you've got a repository to clone to reproduce, that would be even better. But I think this is going to give me enough to follow. So if you make a class and it's not sealed, you're going to have those three methods that you're going to be able to do a mock of. And quite frankly, I don't even think it's got to be a class. You can make an interface with one method, and I'm betting that this behavior will show up. So then you add this attribute. It's not this one anymore because that's gone. And see, here's the thing too. I'm not going to I'm going to put this in a separate branch from main, off of main. And then if I fix it, I am probably going to put it into main and then push that into the 9.0 branch. So by the way, let's label these and let's do a 3.1. Okay. That's the intent, is I want to make this as a bug fix and not have to wait for me to get 9 out. So you add this attribute to both projects, which what that's going to do is create all their mock stuff for this class in both. Now I checked this, I'm 99.999% sure that the types that I make are internal. So that shouldn't have caused an issue with one seeing a type with the same name or something like that. And then you build project 2. So you expect that there should be a conflict or build, but person is saying it stalls and doesn't complete after several minutes. And this is the other thing, well, a couple of other things. This is a regression from 8.1. So apparently this was not an issue in 8.1, which makes me go and say right now, well, let's look at our change log as I try to keep that thorough. In 8.1, it did this. 8.2, rare naming collisions with the generated expectations class and the property names are resolved. That might be it. That might be the problem right there. I don't know. We're going to systematically go through this. Generate code is not exclusive for code coverage. Non-public member descriptions are not found. Diagnostic, collection expressions, support for equatable array. That shouldn't have done anything. Shouldn't have. Again, this is where I'm trying to weave in my head which way should I go and not to make assumptions, but try to forge a path ahead that I think is fairly correct. Create a new attribute. I don't think the attribute, it just is a marker to get the generator to run. So that really shouldn't be it. None of this should have had anything to do with it. And this shouldn't have had anything to do with it. So my guess is it's this, but we don't know yet. So what was something else that I noticed? 8091, okay. And then this is interesting. A workaround is use the internals visible attribute in project 1 to expose the class 1 mock to project 2, because the expectations class, and that to be a little more correct here, the expectations class is what houses everything. That's internal, and then it has a private seal class, and that's the actual mock. But I get what the person's saying. It's correct enough. But what's surprising is that this actually fixes it. Because I'm like, how would expose a class 1 mock to project 2? And I get that's not what they're doing here. They're not trying to see any of the generated stuff, even though if that was there, they should be able to do it, but it's internal. They shouldn't have to do it. So I'm like, how does that fix this? So there's a mystery to involve here. There's a mystery to unravel. So let's get the music going, and hopefully it's not too loud. And have another drink of coffee here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just try to follow this, and I'm going to use not 2022 preview. I'm just going to use 2022. And we're going to do a new project. We're going to say blank solution. And we're going to put it in my folder here. And we're going to say rocks 340 bug. Now, I'm not going to commit this or anything. I'm just using this to follow the person's instructions and see if I can reproduce it. If I can reproduce it, then I got to figure out a way to reproduce it in a test, which I think I might be able to do because I have tests that create multiple projects in, turn it down a little bit more. I create tests that have projects to actually test when things are internally visible or not. So I had to make a project and then a project that references that project. So I probably should be able to do the same thing, but first things first, let's try to actually recreate this. So we're going to say 10, whoops, what did I just do? I did not want to make a Git repository. That is not what I meant to do. Add new project. I'm going to make a class library 1, and that's fine. And we got class 1. Perfect. Now, if it makes a class 1 in project 2, we'll just delete it. Because that's the thing, it doesn't say here when you make a new project, it will always add a class there. But because of the step 4 here, I'm assuming it means make empty projects. That's what I'm assuming. So we're going to do that too. Add new project, class library 2. That's good, and then we'll delete that from there. We'll say add project reference to class library 1. Okay. Now we want to add rocks to both an 830. We'll do 830 first. And let's do manage NuGet packages for solution. Let's browse to rocks. And we'll add it to both of these. And we'll say install. Okay. Probably installed. Looks like it installed. Sure. I don't know why it does that. Sure. I don't know why it does that either. And now it says, oh yes, so we're going to want again, not explicit. Again, this is one of those things of, it would have been nice if there was a repository for me to clone. So then there would be no ambiguity. I could just do that, but that's fine. I get what the person's saying. So we're going to say add new item, and we're going to say shared. Okay, I'm going to take all that off. We're going to use this one. And that should be good. Okay, so we do the thing there. And now we're going to copy that here. And that should have done a copy, right? Yeah, okay. Not a copyright, a copy, right? It didn't make like a linked file or anything like that. I just heard my fan absolutely take off like a rocket. So I think we're seeing the behavior already. So let's build project 2. Well, there you go. Stop. Hopefully that calms things down. And hopefully I'm not losing frame rates. Wow, that's okay, well, that's true. That is definitely a problem. I would imagine this should calm things down. Hopefully. Maybe not. I don't know, but man, that definitely is making it grind. Let's close this. At least we've gotten past the first hurdle. Can I reproduce it? And the answer is, I absolutely can. Because, wow, that really made my computer suffer. And see, yeah, now building is no problem whatsoever. Shut up, computer. One of the things I didn't have time to do over my vacation is check my computer. But yeah, that is definitely a problem. So, okay. Well, we got that in place. Now, saying this was a regression from 8.1. And when did we add the rock attribute? That was an 8.3. Again, I don't think the attribute itself is what's causing the... Again, that's my guess. But I don't think that's causing the problem. I think it's this thing actually here. But who knows? So let's actually, even though we've obsoleted it, let's come into here and say rock create that. And it's going to tell me it's obsolete, which is fine. So we clean, let's say build, and that just builds, no problem. But if I do that, now if I say build clean, and I say build, we're off to the races. Okay. Stop. Stop. Close. Okay. So again, not the attribute. I got the feeling it's that naming thing that's spinning out of control for whatever reason. Internals visible to. So let's try that now. Let's go into, well, no, let's first say if we run the build here, it succeeds. Okay. Now, if we go into our class library and we say, let's make it 8.1 and 8.1, this is where I should have just done manage packages centrally. Okay. So we close those, clean, and we still got that commented. So now if we say this, build, we succeeded. Okay. If we take this off, we clean, and we build, that succeeds too. Okay. So that's actually where I'm starting to think even more that the problem is with 288. With whatever I did there at 288, my name is actually my YouTube account. So that's why I'm thinking this is actually the issue because of where he's doing it. I could reference 2 and narrow it down even more. Let's do that. Because if it gets introduced in 2, that gives even more credence to what I'm thinking, in my opinion. Okay, build, clean, rebuild, started, and it succeeds. But now let's uncomment this and do that. Let's say build and death. We say cancel, we clean, we go to class library 2 and we try to build it again. It's dead. So that's what I think the regression actually is. Okay. Let's cancel. All right. So good. I mean, we've now figured out that is actually the regression is in 2. So I'm going to put some, we're going to take some notes here. And we'll save it once I make the branch. It seems like the regression came in with 8.2.0 and it looks like it may be related to, what did I say here? 288. Okay. So let's do that. To this fix. Okay. What I want to do too, though, is come back in here and bring in the bug again. And this is, let's go to 3 and go to 3. Not that it really should matter, but if we say clean and we say build here, we know that should work. Yes, it does. Now it's saying, the person said, using internals visible in project 1. Okay, so let's say, let's actually just go back to saying rock type of class 1, build type create. I just, that reads better to me. And we'll do that still commented though. Okay. So we got the shared here. We want to also say assembly internals visible to, and now we want to say project 2. Oh no, class library 2. Thank you, help. And then all internals visible as properties unimplemented. Yeah, usually I've just set a class or a assembly name is technically, I think, what you're passing in here. Not a project name per se. Yeah, the assembly name, but that'll be class library too. Okay, so let's clean. And now if we come into here, we say save and we build, that doesn't seem to be helping me. So yeah, that fix or workaround doesn't seem to be doing anything for me. And that is class library 2, yeah. So I'm not sure how that helped the reporter of said bug. So I'm gonna make a note here too. The workaround with internals visible to doesn't seem to work around the issue, which is not a big deal. If the person thinks that it's a workaround, then great, but it didn't seem to do anything with me. So unless to expose the class 1 mock to project 2. Oh, I think I know what they're saying. I think what they're trying to do is they have a class library 1. They're trying to make the mock of it, but because it's internal, they also want to have it in the second library, where that second library is referencing the first one. So then they also put the rock attribute there, so it's trying to generate all the stuff there. But there's something with naming there that I'm not handling correctly, and it's spinning off into La La Land, and it can't rename something. That's my guess. So this way now, class library 1 is shared this. If I actually had, let's just add a new item and I call it class 2. I bet if I put in here a public void foo and just said var expectations is equal to new class 1. See, now I can see it where I couldn't before. Okay, so I think we know where the problem lies. We just now need to figure out how to fix it. And we have to be able to reproduce this first, because I don't want to guess. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do another 2002 project. Well, not project. I think I'm on main. Am I not? No. So let's close this. Let's go to Git, Manage Branches, and let's check out main. Okay. Now we're going to close this. So now we're going to open rocks. We're going to close this for a second because my computer's getting a workout right now. Okay, so we've got rocks here. And now let's go to Git, New Branch. I'm not going to do the whole, we're just going to say 340 stalling build. And yes, we're doing this off of main. Okay. So all the stuff I've been doing for the last couple of months where I've been purely working on the 9.0 release, I've got to backtrack in my head and not necessarily think of, oh, is that... Because one thing I thought of is, one thing I've added in 9.0 is generating a class for ref structs and ref struct arguments. That's just one thing, and that's why I thought I was that doing like too many, and that's actually something that I do need to think about, which is if I'm generating these types, that's a side note here. To do. If I'm generating a type like I'm doing in 9.0.0 with ref struct argument, will this bring in a similar issue where type names may collide? And that very well may happen. So I don't necessarily want to fix that here, but I do want to bring that in as something to take a look at after I fix this. Okay. All right. So we think it has to do with this issue. So let's come into here. And what actually... Yes, I get the line height. What is this? This is a naming generator test. Okay. Expectations, fully qualified name, which is what we're sticking in here now. And the reason we do this is because compilation extensions, we're getting the expectation names here. And in the type mock model, we get these things because that allows us to specify the right names for the type mock. Okay. Now, that wasn't all of this. Fine-tuning on names. That was just something with the tests. Adding make name uniqueness, although that's not the case here. I think I just do the same thing here with a make. Yes. And then I say all test names pass. Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff here that kicks in, method name builder. Oh, it's because I'm passing in the type mock model, I think. That's what changes. Because I now need the expectations property name and stuff like that. Yeah. Could be the property name, although I don't think so, but that's okay. Definitely do think it's something here. Why is my computer wants to be cool? So, all right. So, first thing to do is let's make a test that reproduces this. Oh, and then I want to, before I forget, I want to put this in the notes of my repos, JSON doc, rocks, docs, notes. There. Okay. So now, where am I doing obsolete here? No, not obsolete. Internals visible. Non-public member tests, yes. I know I've got a test in here, at least one somewhere, where I have the unreferenceable name. I don't need to do all this with mono-CSL. That was just because I needed to create a name of something. Create the internal extract member in different assembly, yes. Whoops. As soon as I find it, yes, and main is off of 8.3, where I've now changed all the tests so that they don't use just rock make. So, hello. So I can make something where I make the source and I compile it, or I create it, say to metadata reference, although I don't technically compile it here, but I add it, source references, add source reference. Oh, and then that does a syntax tree. That code formatting is not the greatest. And then this is trying to refer to the type that's in here. And so we're passing in source references here. So we're saying reference this thing. So I should be able to do the same thing. Let's put this in naming. Now, here's the thing. We tested this in the same assembly. We did not test this somewhere else. So we're going to say test. Public static async task generate, because that's what I'm calling these now. Generate when both compilations use rocks async. I can't think of a better name right now, but we'll go with that. Man, it just sounds like my computer is just really like working hard. Maybe if I observe it with Task Manager, it realizes it needs to be quieter. I don't know. Let's just put this here. So we want to do something like this. Okay. And so what we want is just a public class 1. That's it. Does not need anything else. Right? We also though need using rocks. We need to say assembly rock make type of class 1, and we're just going to say build type create just for now. Okay, so now we got the source here. We got the syntax tree, create compilation. We're going to call it source. Name really doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Okay. So then we're going to say var code is equal to and here we're going to say see, that's interesting. Now that I think about this, oh, because it's a public class. Right. Okay. Fair. Okay. And we want to say using rocks there. Okay. Then we're going to say what should be generated here. Yeah, this isn't a case I've ever even remotely thought of anybody even trying to do this. Class 1, rock, create. So, what's going to happen when I do this? My computer is just like really struggling. I don't think it's dropping any frames. It's just like, it just does not like what I'm doing today. Just to review this, 1, 2, 1, 1. And so that should make that should internally, well, I don't know if this is quite going to reproduce it. Because this doesn't run the generator on it. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I can actually reproduce it, at least this way. I might need to do something where I say run the generator, get a new compilation with that output, omit that, and then reference the emitted assembly in this. Let's see what happens here. No, it doesn't. I don't know what you're talking about, code. Yeah, it fails. Well, why does it fail? The fact that it came back is meaning we're not... Yeah, because what it's doing is... it's actually getting the generated code here. So not quite the same thing. So if I do this, but I really want to test around this. And now this should work. But it's because we haven't actually done the, like if we just do the compilation by telling it to do the generator driver. Do we actually do that anywhere here? I know it's a thing you can do. I don't think I do that within my code here because I use the testing assemblies that come from Microsoft. So I don't have to use the generator driver. But to the internets, C# generator driver. C# generator driver class. How to reference C#. Oh God. No dark mode. Create the driver that will control the generation. Let's actually look at one of these. I just want an example. You know? Testing Roslyn. Yeah, this guy's good. So. This single struct. So this is what we want to do. We want to say, maybe not all this, but this is kind of what we want to do. So we get the source composite. We say var source driver. And then we say generators is an enumerable source generators. So where does he get source generator from? New rock generator. That's right. That's right. So I'm going to say as source generator. There we go. And let's do that. Do we need to change any of the driver options? I think this one's doing a test to say if you do one thing and then you do it again, track the steps, which we really don't care about in this test. So let's just not do that. Okay, so get the source driver. We're going to run it. So let's say source drivers, driver. We're going to do it against our source compilation. Except it didn't like that. Why didn't it like that? Oh, because we have to type it as a generator driver. Whatever. Update the compilation and rerun. Well, doesn't the driver, if I remember right, doesn't it give you the... Yeah, run generators and update compilation. That's what we want. Out. I thought there was a update compilation thing out. Source generator. And so this, if I remember right, it gives you the driver back, but we want to say out source compilation. And then we also get a, yeah, diagnostics, which is kind of interesting. Can I just do out that? Because I don't care. Ah, fine. New source compilation? No, I can't do that in line, right? Damn it. What does it give here? A compilation. Jesus. Compilation. New source compilation. There we go. And now you're good. Okay. No, you're not. You can be inlined. Really? Oh, yeah, okay. I knew there was a way to do that. I knew it. Of course I knew how to do that. All right, so now we take our new source compilation. We say to metadata reference, and that's what we reference. Now let's see what happens. Nope. Well, that's interesting. It realizes, well, and see, here's the thing. This assembly makes an internal type. So the thing that I do to get the name arguably shouldn't be seeing that internal type. Like I can see the class 1 here, but in this assembly, in this project, that expectations class is internal. And so I shouldn't try to be using it in naming conflict resolution because there is no conflict. So I'm able to not reproduce this because I think what happened here is if I change all this, like, okay, let's look at this. It's now made everything expectations of 2. Why I start with 2 and 1? I mean, I don't know and I don't care. Let's just say age. We'll do that here. 2 in the current block. There. Now if I run this test, see, it passes, but that's not what should happen. So if I come back here and I look at the code that I created to well, yeah, I know. I wanted this. That is in what? Get expectations name. Okay. Type arguments tick count. Fine. So existing type is not null. Oh, interesting. I bet. Learn debug. We don't need this. We need this. I bet we're looking at, it does resolve the metadata type name, but we're not looking at the type itself to say if it's visible. And if it's not visible to us, we don't care. The problem is that even if I fix this, well, I'd have to... I'd have to make a local NuGet package, like a local NuGet server, which is just a file. It's just a directory. Although I don't have that set up on my machine here right now. But that would be the only way, is to create a A31, run it against that solution I did to see if that fixes this. Okay, well, let's see what happens here. Oh, it is null. Which this is... This should be if... Where are we, actually? Oh, we're in here. Okay, so that's the first time we see this. This is actually in the first source build that we're doing. Okay. And so it's not null, but it is null, which is fine. We then return this, and we get class 1, create, yeah. That's fine. Now we should come into this again, which we do. And what do we say? It's not null. That's why we're creating the 2. But if I say existing type can be seen by containing assembly, which is self-containing, it's false. I can't see it. So none of this should matter. Okay, give me a second here. I think we're on to something. Not that this would cause it to spin. If I come through this, now if I come through it again, what it will do is it'll say it's 2. And now say, well, if you had 2, that comes through as null because we don't see that, and then we go off and build stuff. Okay. Yeah, now they're differing because I'm expecting not to be a 2 there, but there is, so that's fine. Okay. I think what we need to say here is existing type is not null, and existing type can be seen by containing assembly, compilation. No, self assembly. There. Okay. So that way, if I run this now, it passes. And that should not have broken anything else. And it doesn't. Okay. I think with the ref struct, I may need to make sure that these gen types are internal. And if someone does a internals visible to, then I may not need to generate them at all. Because the problem is that if they're in the rocks assembly proper, you're referencing a assembly or a package or assembly. And those types are just the types in there. But I'm generating types now in 9.0 because of the ref struct argument. .NET Standard doesn't know what allows ref struct is, and so I've got to generate that code. But now that code will exist in both assemblies as generated code, and if one has internals visible to, that'll make this now visible to this other one. What I'd really like is a way to say, make a type that's truly internal to just this assembly and cannot be projected out with internals visible to. You know, again, this has become even a more rare case. I still don't see how this is causing it to spin so badly. Because it really shouldn't. But if we do this here again, if I look at my fix that I just did, if existing type is not null and it can be seen by the containing assembly. And what we saw is when it comes in here now is to say, well, it's not null because we can see the type name, but we can't see that type. And so we're then going to fall through and just generate the name as expected. If we could see it, if the type is not null and we could see it, then we definitely want to generate our own name. And then that's actually where I think the internals visible thing is what's going to cause it to spin the other way. But it shouldn't. You know, we're just making a type name and we're just making sure that it doesn't exist within the current compilation. Essentially, that's what we're trying to do with this. It does seem a little weird, though, that it was going to spin that badly. But if you did make it internals, I guess we'd have to test that. There's really no way to make sure that this is going to work correctly other than to test it locally with that other project with an 8.3.1 release. Hold on. Okay. So I think all I'm going to be able to do is A31 and then test it. So if we do that, okay, now let's close this and then do that. Bring up rocks again. I want to just run all my tests. Okay, all tests pass, which is good. Let's make sure that my code generation tests. No, I don't want to do Shift F5. I want to do Control F5. Okay, give this a second. I think this should pass with everything here, hopefully. Yeah, but the only way I'm going to feel really good about this is if I can test it with the scenario that this person gave and make sure that whether internals visible is on or not, that it'll work. And while you're sitting here watching this go by, you can listen to some very pretty music in the background. Hopefully it's pretty music. I don't know if it really is pretty music, but hopefully it's pretty music. So... if it gets through all this, then at least I'm hoping that it means that they didn't break something even in a different way. This shows again that naming is hard. I mean, the whole reason I did this thing with expectations name is because if some highly intelligent person put in a class name in their assembly that just so happened to match the name rocks or match create expectations, that it wouldn't cause a conflict. But of course, something that I did caused it to spin wildly out of control, which was not what I expected. But then again, the scenario that the person gave isn't one that I expected, where both projects reference rocks. The second one references the first one, and both of them are trying to make expectation types. I never in my wildest dreams thought of that. You know, and since it's internal, it should have stopped though. That's the thing that I don't understand. Okay, that's good. That makes sense. It should have stopped. Like, it should have stopped trying to build another name. What it felt like what it was doing is spinning in this forever. And coming through and going, well, I have to keep getting a name here. And it should have fallen through at one point and said, Well, type by metadata name class 1 expectation, create expectations 2, that would have been null. And so then it should have come through here and said, okay, I don't need to generate that anymore. But for some reason it was, and I don't understand why. So that's why I'm like, I'm not entirely convinced this actually fixed it all. So, do I have... I do have a NuGet packages folder, but I thought I made like a local, I mean, again, you just have to make a local NuGet, but then you gotta publish the package. What I really wish what I really need to do is just reference the assembly. I think. I'm not sure. I don't want to necessarily push it to NuGet itself, because it's going to take a little bit of time for it to validate everything, and that's not necessarily what I wanted to do. Though that may be the right thing to do. You don't need to see anything. So actually, if I did this and I said, let's make an alpha 1. Okay. So then let's close this. And let's do that. Bring in rocks. And tell it to run all tests. Now it's doing that. I'm going to sign in. And I did. Okay, so now we're going to upload a package here. And if I go to my repositories, I go to source, rocks, bin, release. I already got a 9.0 alpha one there. Of course I do. But I could upload this. Wait, let's see. They all ran. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to come over. I know, you're like, what is he doing? Well, I'm doing an upload here. Source, rocks, bin, release. An 831 alpha package. And all I'm going to do this is for me. If this works, then I'm going to actually delete it, upload an 831, and I'll do that all later. But okay, so now we have to wait a little bit for this to publish. So give it a moment. How's your day? How's everybody doing? And again, this is something that I probably should appear in search results, be available, install, restore after both validation and indexing are complete. Package validation and indexing may take up to an hour. This is where I do need to have something local and then be able to publish locally to that structure. And I think, I'm not sure about this. That's something I gotta take a look at in my own world. But I think you can make a folder. Let's look that up while I'm waiting. So .NET NuGet publish local directory. Local NuGet feeds. So we hierarchical folder structure in local network. Feeds can be used as package sources. Adds path name to list of sources or NuGet sources command. Initially, manage hierarchy for the following general structure. My server packages, the package ID. So we would have put 831 there. We would have put the packager and other files. Create the structure automatically. So actually, it's not that bad. I could have actually done this. You can also say copy all packages in a folder to the feed as if you ran NuGet add on each one individually. We use the NuGet add command. So I could have said NuGet add in that directory, said here's my package, and then says my source is this directory, and it would have done that for me. Okay, so it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And if this takes way too long to take, I might just go down that that road. And then you can go into like Visual Studio and say as a package source, I want to use a local source, which is a directory here, and yeah, adds path name like that. Okay. Because then I could have done 831 locally, whatever. If this takes a little bit more, okay. It's not been indexed, but it will appear in search results. So it is listed now. Okay, so the moment of truth, which is a little scary, this is rocks. What we want to do is come into 2022, and we want to do the rocks 340 bug. Now, let's take this off, and we have that off. Let's come into here and say 831-alpha 1. Class library 2. Why is it not? There. Okay. Okay, so if I clean this and I say, well, that didn't work. Package has not been indexed yet. Appear in search results. Install, restore after indexing is complete. Now indexing is complete. Fine, you can't find it. Of course you can't. Let's do this. Failed to restore. Why? It should be there. 831 alpha 1. That's the right name. What's... No. Let's come here. Manage get packages for solution. Browse. Installed. Let's look at pre-release. Yeah, it's... It's there. What are you talking about? Fine, let's put it back down to this. Maybe it didn't like because I did it manually or something. I don't know. Now it's all sorts of messed up. You know what? Let's go into that directory and just clean clock all of this. Even that. Okay. Now it's coming to 2022. Do this. Oh, wait a minute. I was being stupid. There is no 1 out there. It's this. Okay. There we go. And you can restore. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Now let's come into the solution. Say, managing your packages for solution. Let's say update to this. Okay. Build. Ready. Build succeeded. And that error went away. What's the information? Yeah, whatever. Okay. So now we're back to where we started, which is what happens when I do this. It succeeded. Okay. And what if I do this? It succeeded as well. Perfect. Because in here, what I should be able to do now is say var expectations is equal to new class 1. But that's class 1. Ah, yes, because it's in that name. Yes, 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 yes. Class 1, create expectations. There we go. And it conflicts, though, with the imported type. Using the type defined in Rock's generator. Well, that isn't really what I was expecting, because if I go here, this is in class, yeah. There is no 2. Which is not correct. Right? We put in our project here, we wanted to make the class 1 expectations. But this one does as well, and it says class 2 can see this. So what it should have done is it should have said, hey, wait a minute. You actually have class, this internal thing is actually visible to you. Right? Which is fine. This file was generated by Rocks and cannot be edited. Now, I think I know what it's saying here. We want to say, oh, this gets really messy in a hurry. The type class 1 create expectations in class library 1 conflicts with the imported type using the type defined in Rocks generator class library 1. So what is this error? It's a warning. Okay. So it's a warning that you could ignore if you run into this case. It still is a little... It's a little disconcerting because we should have made a class 1 create expectations 2, and we're not. I thought there was a way. Huh. I thought there was a way that you could actually see like all the files that were generated. But that doesn't seem to be working right here. Huh. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be saying, here are all the files that we generate. Yeah, it's saying this generator is not generating files. This one's also like, well, it's not even doing anything. This one should be generating files, which it is. I kind of wonder if, because these are both projects in and of themselves, like this is just some really weird case that is not necessarily something that I want to solve either, if that makes sense. I'm a little concerned though that again, this second project, because it's obviously not seeing the generated how to say this? It's like it's not seeing the generated expectations. And so it just it says, well, I'll create this, even though it's there, but it's like it made this file here, and it said, oh, it's just that one, because when the generator's running, it didn't see that there was one there, but that first one generates it, and so then you get a conflict now. That's the only thing I can think of that's happening here. So I think at this point, I'm going to stop because I want to talk to this person that gave the bug and just say, first of all, why are you doing this? You know, why do you have this case? And the second one is, I'm not sure if I can actually even solve this, because I don't know if the way generators work and the way the project references work. The one thing I want to try too, and I'm going to make a note here, is try a similar thing with regex generation. Are their class name? Because actually, let's just do that real quick, and then I will stop. So I forget how to do this. .NET regex source generator. I actually use this on my project, but I don't remember how this actually works off the top of my head. So you do something like yes, you... So if I come into here and I go into class library 1 and I have file new, no. Add new item, regex 1, because why not? And then let's put that in here. Partial member, yeah, this has to be internal static partial class. Partial method must have implementation part because it has accessibility modifiers. Yeah, the unused, I don't care about. Partial method must have an implementation part because it has accessibility. So if I just say, okay, that's exceeded. Fine. So now it's coming to class like, so in the namespace here, it has a partial class regex 1. And it did this because the class is in this library. I see what it's doing. Like if I said public static here, what would that do to the generated? Would that matter at all? I don't think so. Yeah, it keeps it in the namespace of the assembly you're in. Identifies code generated by a tool's class cannot be inherited. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a generated code attribute. But I kind of like that. System runtime 8.0, which means I may not be able to see it anyway. Pfft. And does it give a version? Is that what it's doing? Yeah, it says what version it was done in. I'm just going to put that down as a to-do because it caught my eye. Probably need to polyfill this, but interesting nonetheless. Okay, so I get that this won't have the same behavior as what I'm seeing because this is a partial class, so it's going to get built into this assembly, and it has to within this assembly because, again, it's partial, so that all gets compiled into here, and that would be based on the name here. So you're not going to get a collision. The reason why I've been using the namespaces of the types that it's generated in is because I think for lack of a better term, convenience, the ability to see and be in the same namespace as where that type came from. And in all likelihood, I mean, not all likelihood, but would it be possible for a library to be called class library 1 to reference class library 1? I mean, well, you can get the same fully typed name. That's actually something I ran into. That's why I have alias support because of that. But yeah, I got the feeling that that's what's biting me a little bit, is that the code that I have in there is potentially going to have a collision because it's in it's the same namespace and the same name, even though the libraries have different names. But if I put it if I gave the name of the assembly first and then I did system runtime I can be mocked, whatever it is, would that actually cause another problem or not? Would that potentially get rid of something? And again, I'm at this point just guessing. I'm still a little curious as to why this person has two projects and they want to put a mock in one and put a mock in the other of the same thing. Like, actually, in this case, what you could do, if I'm getting what could happen here, is you just don't do this. Right? Because then if you come in here, this is from the first one, and this should build. Okay? If you really want each one to have its own, well, then you don't make this internals visible to. Okay? Now if I come here, it doesn't know what that is because it can't see it. Right? But now if I come back in here and I add it, it should be okay because this one is in this is defined within my assembly. So at this point, this seems to work and we don't spin. I would say to this person, just don't do this. And they're not. To be clear, they're actually just doing this here, which generates it internally, and this here, which generates it internally, and that doesn't spin anymore. So actually, I think I might have overthought it, and this might be okay. If somebody would come in and say internals visible to, then you just wouldn't make a mock of it because now you're seeing the internals just like you would see the internals of any other type that exists within that project. And now you might start, now you're going to start running into conflicts because you're going to have literally the same thing in both places. So now that I've really thought this through, I think I actually have a solution in place that should solve this. But I'm going to ping the person and just make sure, hey, did this seem to fix things the way you thought they should be fixed? And I think this did. I'm going to play with this more later just to make absolutely sure it still spins with 830. If I do the alpha version, does it actually then work fine? Then there are no conflicts. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think I have this fixed and I think we're okay. I'm just going to have to do some more thinking offline and make absolutely sure that I did not mess anything up that I don't expect to be messed up. So if you were watching or you're watching in the future, thank you for watching. I do appreciate that. Please subscribe. I'm trying to get to that magical number 1,000. So please subscribe if you haven't done that already. And again, these streams are random, hence their name, Random.Code streams. So whenever the spirit moves is when I do these. I also do some gaming streams. I've been doing Mass Effect, and I might be doing that later tonight. We'll see. So thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you in the future.